Let me ask you a genuine question. How many years has it been since you've actually accomplished the things that you wanted to accomplish? Have you been going years and years without seeing any real substantial growth in your life? Does it feel like months go by and you just feel stuck in the exact same place? Like you see a vision of yourself, a version of yourself that is far superior. It's the ideal version of yourself, the kind of person that you'd like to become. But for whatever reason, you can't quite figure out how to get there. You might know the steps, but you're lacking something. You're lacking the energy. You're lacking maybe the motivation. I think this is a place that many of us have been before, where we see a version of ourselves that we want to become, but we don't actually know why we can't get there. I've had situations myself where I'd wake up in the morning and I'd sit there and desire to be a better version of myself. But for whatever reason, I feel lethargic or I feel unmotivated. I feel like I don't have the energy to actually pursue the things that I want to do. It feels as if whenever I try, things just don't go my way, which ultimately makes me quit. That's 100% okay. I've been there before. We've all been there. So in this video, I want to share with you some ways that I believe will help you increase your motivation and actually get more things done. The first thing you need to understand about getting more motivation is understanding that the idea of motivation in itself is ultimately a myth. There are times where you're going to experience a certain burst of energy, where you're going to feel like things just click in your mind and that you're ready to go. Take advantage of those moments, but understand this: motivation as a whole is just a myth. The people that you see consistently getting ahead, the people that you see consistently improving and accomplishing things and objectively reaching their potential, these are not the people that wait around for motivation. These are not the people that need to watch a video and get a sudden burst of energy. These are not the people that need to be in a certain group and leech energy from those people with the hopes that they'll be inspired. Inspiration, motivation, these are all fine things, but the thing you need the most is discipline. I want to share this with you really fast. I go to the gym I make it my goal to go at least 3 times a week. Typically 5 times a week is really how much I go, but minimum 3 times a week. Most of the time, I don't actually want to go to the gym. I don't feel motivated to go. I don't feel inspired to go. Sure, I try to do things to help me stay, I guess, as inspired as possible. I'll look at Arnold Schwarzenegger videos. I'll go on YouTube and look at Mike Mentzer or Greg Plitt, Larry Platts, something like that. Sure. But ultimately, the thing that I personally believe helps me the most is my discipline. I don't go to the gym because I feel like going to the gym. I go to the gym because I should go to the gym, because my goals hinge on me consistently going to the gym and doing X amount of sets, doing X amount of reps, lifting X amount of weights, progressively overloading in my weights. So drop the idea that you need motivation or that you need inspiration to accomplish anything. The thing you need the most overall is you need discipline. Now, the second thing you're going to need to do, you're going to need to visualize the ideal version of yourself. A lot of times when I find that people lack a lot of motivation, or when they find it difficult to be inspired, or when they struggle to accomplish their goals, the reason why they're having such difficulty is because they have never truly sat there and identified the ideal version of themselves. They don't know what the perfect version of themselves looks like. They don't know what that person talks like. They've never sat there and tried to identify the physique of that person, how much money that person has, the way that person dresses, the way that person walks, the types of people that that type of person keeps around them, the type of lifestyle that that person has. In order for you to achieve more in your own life, you're going to need to visualize the ideal lifestyle for yourself. And when I say this, I need you to be very honest with yourself, extremely honest. This needs to be the ideal version of yourself that you choose for yourself, not the ideal version of yourself that your family chose for you, not your siblings, not your parents, not your friends, not what society expects from you. This needs to be the version of yourself that you chose for yourself. I think many people, what they do is they allow the thoughts and the ideas of other people to influence their decision making. Back when I was in college, one of the careers that had the most dropouts, and not necessarily drop out in the sense they quit school, but they drop out of that major, is engineering. So many people, myself included, start off as engineers in college and eventually drop off and switch to liberal arts or maybe finance or business or some other major. Now, if you were to ask an engineer, and I think engineers can be a bit egotistical about this, they might say, well, it's because those students aren't smart enough to keep up. And maybe to a degree that could be true for some students, but what I've personally found to be true is not that the students can't keep up, it's that the students aren't interested in being engineers. And the reason why they aren't interested in being engineers is because they never wanted to be an engineer in the first place. They don't have a long-term vision of that lifestyle being suitable for what they want in life. They don't see themselves as an engineer in the future. They might see themselves as someone that wants to travel. They might see themselves as someone that wants to do martial arts, someone that wants to be a business owner, something along those lines. And maybe engineering was the means to an end because they saw engineering as a way to get money. But in reality, what I personally find is that many of their parents or many of their family members just encourage them and almost force them to be engineers. And then when they choose not to perform well because they don't want to study, because they're not interested in the material, they end up dropping out. But then they feel lost afterward. The reason why I think they feel lost is because they've spent their entire lives just listening to what their family, society, their friends, everyone around them thinks they should do, when instead, they've never taken the time to sit there and ask themselves, what is the type of person that I want to become? What is the kind of person that I want to be in life? What do I want to accomplish? What goals do I want to have? What kind of lifestyle do I want to live? Is it the lifestyle of my parents? Is it the lifestyle of the average person in society suggesting the way I should live? Maybe it's something different. This is something that you need to be very honest with yourself about. You need to sit there. My recommendation, get a piece of paper and just sit there and outline, if I could snap my fingers right here and now and get the ideal lifestyle for myself, what would it look like? What kind of car would I drive? What kind of clothes would I wear? What kind of people would I hang around with? How much money am I making? What kind of shape am I in? What kind of hairstyle would I have? Do I wear glasses? Do I wear contacts? What does my ideal lifestyle look like from top to bottom? That is the very first thing you should be asking yourself. And I tend to find that once people really sit there and once they really define what their ideal lifestyle looks like, they put themselves in a position to reverse engineer the process. They reverse engineer the idea of going from where they are now to where they want to be. And then as they do that, that's when they get that motivation. That's when they are able to tap into kind of having that discipline for themselves, because they see the finish line, they see the end point, they see the end game, and that ultimately fuels action. Now, the next thing I encourage you to do is you need to take the worst case scenario. And this is sort of the flip to the previous suggestion that I gave. Just now, I suggested that you need to identify your ideal lifestyle. What you need to do now is identify the worst possible outcome that could occur. What does your potential life look like if you don't do the things that you want to do or that you should be doing? Back when I was working at a law firm, I used to make very good money at the law firm. I wasn't really stressed. I had a pretty good life overall. I would go out on dates on the weekend, just hit on girls, all the time on the weekends, go out to bars with friends, sometimes during the weekdays. I began to ease off on my long-term goals. And the reason why is because I started to get comfortable. Over time, I sat there and thought to myself, if this lifestyle of mine continued long-term, what would my future look like? If I stayed at this law firm for the next 10, 20, 30, 40 years, what would my life look like? What will I have accomplished? What kind of girlfriend would I have? What kind of wife would that ultimately lead to? What kind of friends would I have? What kind of opportunities will I have engaged in? None? Many? And the more I thought about it, the more I realized that me staying at the law firm would have led to one of the worst possible outcomes for me in life. I sat there and thought 5, 10, 15, 40, 50 years ahead and realized that one of the worst outcomes for me in my life is being the kind of person that lived a comfortable life of mediocrity. And I think that's what most people do. They live a comfortable life of mediocrity. And if that's what you want, that's completely fine. You got to figure that out for yourself. But for me, I did not want that. And me staying at the law firm, to me, was one of the surefire way that I would get that lifestyle, life of mediocrity. It would have been a decent life, don't get me wrong, but it certainly would have been a life of mediocrity. It would have been a life of comfort because the law firm itself wasn't challenging me in a way that really allowed me to push past my boundaries. The work was provided for me. Everything was provided for me. If I needed help, I was able to ask the main attorney or someone else to help. There was no real creativity that allowed me to express myself, and there was no real pathway for me to excel in. And to me, that was the worst case scenario. Obviously, there are things that could be a lot worse, but in the grand scheme of things, I looked at it from a perspective of, if I were to continue going at the pace that I was in now, what would my life look like 5, 10, 15, 30, 40, 50 years down the line? And I think everyone needs to be doing that. I think everyone needs to have that same mindset. I tend to find that most people don't think long-term in their lives. Most people see life maybe on a one-day time span, or maybe they think about the next week, maybe the next month. My suggestion to you is think in 5-year time spans. Think about your life in the next 5 years if you continue to do what you're doing now. Then think about it again in 10 years, 15 years, 20 years. I think once you begin to do that, you'll be able to truly understand if the current things you're doing today will lead to an eventful, fruitful, ideal life. So hopefully that all makes sense. The next thing I recommend you do is you need to build quick wins. A lot of times people say that they get burnt out in life, and I'm mixed about the idea of burnout. I do think that to a degree, the concept of burnout does exist, but I think burnout is really the result of you taking consistent action without getting any actual progress or without getting any wins. So my remedy to this is you need to always be winning. Now, when I say you need to always be winning, I think many people interpret that as I need to always have massive wins. And I don't think that's the case. I don't even think that's possible. Part of it's because a massive win is relative. Maybe what looks like a massive win to you is a small win to somebody else. But I think if you try to set yourself up to only look for the biggest wins, you'll miss out on all the other things that could have been considered small wins, yet still productive wins. Still wins that are still moving you in the direction that you want to go in. What I suggest to you is you need to look for those small wins. You need to allow yourself to have those small wins, those small successes. My belief is that, and this is sort of an idea that comes from physics, an object in motion tends to remain in motion. When you build momentum by winning in life, even if it's a small win, it's just enough to keep the wheels going. It's enough to keep you moving forward. And I think as long as you don't just smash on the brakes and try to bring everything to an abrupt halt, you're still in a position where you can still keep on winning. Once you win once, once you win twice, once you win 10 times in a row, you're gonna wanna keep on winning. You're gonna want that positive feeling. You don't want that feeling to end. It's kind of like when you're at a bar. You're at a bar, you're drinking, you're having a good time, you're having fun. You don't want the night to end. You want the night to continue because you're in motion. You're moving forward. You're allowing yourself to have fun in that instance. And you don't want the fun to end. You don't want things to come to a halt. This is true in everything, but I think you need to use this concept to your advantage in the sense that if you're winning in life, allow yourself to keep winning. Don't allow yourself to step on the brakes and suddenly allow everything to come to a crashing halt. Keep winning, keep finding wins. Now, what I think you should do is try to find very small wins in little things that you do every single day, things that are 100% in your control. So for example, when I wake up in the morning, if I wake up before 5:30 a.m., I consider that a win. I consider that a win because I know it's difficult to do and I know most people won't do it. So I feel special and I feel like I've accomplished something when I have done this. And the best part is that waking up at 5:30 a.m. is 100% in my control. 100% in my control. So other people cannot contaminate this. They cannot stop this. Only I can choose if I want to wake up at 5:30 or not, or earlier. That's my first win. The second win could be something relatively simple. It could just be you drinking 2 glasses of water or a glass of water or something along those lines. The third thing could be you working out at a certain time of day. The fourth thing could be you journaling, maybe reading 5 pages in a book. Maybe you writing a blog article, or at least writing a draft for a blog article, or 2 paragraphs. It doesn't matter what it is. You need to find things that are moving you forward, but that you are 100% in control of, that still feel like it's moving you in the right direction. You want to be sure that the things you're choosing as small wins aren't so easy that they don't feel fulfilling, but they aren't so difficult that it's too hard to actually accomplish them. You don't want to consider a win to be waking up to $1,000 in your bank account, unless it's something that you consistently do every single day, in which case it might not even be that much of a win. Make the win something that you control. Don't make it something that is contingent upon someone else's actions. That's kind of the ultimate takeaway from this idea. The next thing you need to do is you need to change your identity. How you view yourself determines how you act, and how you act ultimately determines how you view yourself. They work in tandem. If you see yourself as a winner in life, you will begin to win. And if you see yourself as a loser, you will lose. You need to shift the way you view yourself. In my own personal life, I try my best to never say things about myself that I don't truly want. I always say to myself, I have endless motivation. I have endless energy. I have limitless potential. And to some people that might sound wacky, to some people that might sound goofy or like woo woo or just dumb, but I do it for a reason. And the reason is I feel like once I say something in that sense, it needs to get done. It needs to be accomplished. It needs to be fulfilled. Once I put it out there into the world, I have to act upon it. If I say that I'm the kind of person that has infinite energy or limitless motivation, then I must act in a way to make that true. And what would a person with limitless motivation do? A person with limitless motivation is always motivated. He's always doing something. He's always acting upon whatever goals or dreams or endeavors he wants to act on. Does that make sense? So you need to reframe the way you view yourself. And the way you do this is simply by declaring something and acting upon it as quickly as possible, consistently. And then over time, even if you don't believe it at first, by you consistently doing those things, your subconscious will begin to realize that you are who you say you are. If you're the kind of person that says you're strong, but you never work out, your subconscious will not believe it. You must say, I'm strong, and then follow it up by working out and trying to increase your strength actively. Then over time, as you see your strength begin to increase, your subconscious will go, he said he's strong, and now he's stronger. Now it's a positive feedback loop. So in your head, the things you say end up becoming true. And ultimately it's because you're making them true. But it's almost like you're lying to yourself to force yourself into success or into action. But that is a big thing that you need to do. This whole idea of motivation and discipline often comes down to your identity of yourself. The type of people that see themselves as winners win, and the type of people that see themselves as losers lose. So you need to pick which one of those two categories you want to fall in. Would you like to be a winner, or would you like to be a loser? Pick one and act upon it. Start winning if you want to be a winner. Keep losing if you want to remain a loser. Now, I would say if you don't know where to begin, and if you find it difficult to lie yourself into improvement, my suggestion would be to emulate someone that is further ahead of you. Do exactly what they do, and you will ultimately become much like them. Years ago, when I was in college, I was kind of in a weird depressed state. I didn't want to work out. I was out of shape, couldn't find a girlfriend, had no money, and I wanted to change that. One day I was watching YouTube, and an interview with Dwayne Johnson popped up. And I think it was an Oprah interview, and she was asking him, what do you do every day to stay in shape and to become so successful? Because this is like at the beginning of him sort of taking off as an actor. Before he was just Dwayne Johnson, he was The Rock, the wrestler. And this is kind of him dropping that Rock title and becoming more Dwayne Johnson, the actor. Oprah asked him, what do you do to stay in shape and to sort of succeed in these movie roles? What is your routine like? And he said to her, every day, I wake up at about 4:30 or 5 a.m. I hit the gym, I do cardio, I eat, I go to my movie shoot. He had a whole routine laid out for him. And I sat there and thought about that and said, if Dwayne Johnson has a routine like that and it works for him and it allows him to be in such great shape while also being super productive the entire day so he can shoot these movies and so he can make his videos and he can appear on these TV shows and all this stuff, maybe I should try it. At the very least, even if I can't do it exactly like him, being 10% as good is still way better than staying where I'm at now. And so I did that. And I'd wake up at 4:30 or 5 a.m. or whatever, early in the morning. I'd go to the gym first thing like he did. And then afterwards, I would try to do work, much like he did. And I found my productivity and my self-esteem and how I identified myself increasing rapidly over time. No longer was I the kid that was obese and out of shape. I was the kind of guy that actually went to the gym early in the morning. And to this day, that has just become a consistent habit of mine. Again, it's not motivation, it's pure discipline. Nowadays, it's more even like a habit. It's something I just feel like I should do. It's almost like a duty to myself that I need to fulfill. So my recommendation is this: emulate people that are ahead of you if you find that sort of lying to yourself does not work very well. And then as you begin to just emulate these people, you will internally begin to adopt their habits. You will internally become a little bit more like them. And then once you do that, once you actively emulate them and eventually it becomes more of a subconscious thing, those behaviors, those habits will seep into who you truly are, and it'll become a newer, better version of yourself. The next thing you're going to want to do is you're going to need to decrease your activation energy. Now, what is activation energy? It's not unlike what it sounds. Activation energy is effectively the amount of effort it takes to begin a task. Let's say, for example, you have homework. Activation energy is the amount of effort it takes for you to put the pen to the paper and begin writing. Or it's the amount of effort it takes to begin to sit down at your laptop and begin typing. Or to pull out your chemistry book and to begin doing the equations, or whatever you have to do. The starting point, getting to that starting point, is the activation energy. Now, my recommendation is you need to find a way to decrease the activation energy. And you need to understand that the tougher an activity is, the tougher a task is, the harder it is to get started. Using the gym example, if you're a person that's never gone to the gym, then it's going to require a lot of activation energy to go. It's not going to be the simplest thing in the world. If you're the kind of person that's made a habit of going to the bars every single weekend, it's going to require a lot of activation energy to not go. The amount of effort it takes to get something done or to not do something is the activation energy. Now, how you decrease activation energy highly depends on the individual task that you're doing. But what I recommend is you ultimately need to find a way to change your habits. And by you changing your habits, you change the way you act. And when you change the way you act, you change your results. There's a fantastic book I highly recommend you read called The Power of Habit by Charles Duhigg. And effectively what he says in the book is that ultimately what a habit comes down to is three things. There's pretty much three components that make you do things. There's the cue, there's the habit itself or the action, and then there's the reward. Now, what he recommends in the book is that when you find the cue, once you find the thing that makes you want to act in a certain way, you need to replace the old habit with a brand new habit and still reward yourself for it. Hopefully that makes sense. So let's give an example. Let's say you get home from work and you crave a snack. A bad habit might be to eat a piece of cake because maybe you're trying to lose weight, or maybe you just don't like the sugar, or you know the sugar is unhealthy for you, whatever. The cue, you have a craving, or maybe you're hungry. The habit, you eat a piece of cake. The reward, the sense of satisfaction, or the sense of maybe being satiated by having that cake. You need to change the habit while still maintaining the cue and still maintaining the reward. So instead of eating a piece of cake, what you could do is when you get that hunger, maybe you're actually just dehydrated. So you replace the cake with a lot of water, or with Gatorade, or I don't know. I do this myself because I try not to eat sugar. Whenever I get sugar cravings, I eat a lot of gum. I usually have like this watermelon flavored gum. I think I might have it with me. If I ever have cravings, because I do this happens to me a lot, I replace it with this. It's like watermelon, what is this called? 5 gum? I don't know the exact brand. I think it's like 5 gum. 5 calories per stick. A lot better than just eating a piece of cake or sugar. If I feel the cue of desiring sweets, I feel the cue, I notice it, I replace it with gum instead of a lot of sugar, and then I still feel that reward of feeling satiated or feeling like I've had my sugar craving satisfied. Hopefully that makes sense. So, you need a system of some sort to change your habits for the better. And then ultimately, once you change your habits, you no longer need to worry as much about activation energy. For me to go to the gym, like I mentioned, it's no longer so much of a struggle. It's not a hassle. It's not a chore. It's a habit. When you make an action into a habit, you don't really need to worry about motivation. You don't really need to worry about inspiration. You don't really need to worry about discipline. It's just something that you do. It becomes a part of who you are. And then the final thing that I recommend is find someone to give you the shortcuts. There's a good quote that I've heard a long time ago. It's okay to make mistakes, but it's better to learn from the mistakes of others. I'm a huge advocate of taking what other people have already experienced and essentially downloading it into your brain so that you don't have to have the same negative experiences, the same scars that they have. And to me, one of the best ways to actually do this, to find these shortcuts, is to get a coach. If you have a good quality coach, A coach has already gone through all the hard steps. They know the lessons. They've earned the scars. They've faced the trauma themselves and they've overcome it. And since they've overcome it, they can pass on what they've learned to you without you having to go through all the effort, without you having to go through all the stress, and without you potentially failing. Because I think that's what happens to a lot of people. They try to go through a certain set of challenges. And for some people, facing those challenges is a disaster. They can't actually make it through. So they fall off and they fail and they never actually get the life that they want because they weren't able to face the challenges themselves. A coach will help you bypass all of that. Not only does a coach show you the shortcuts, a coach also keeps you accountable. I think one of the most difficult things for people is to hold themselves accountable. It's easy to say to a person, in order to get in better shape, in order to achieve a goal, you might need to eat certain foods less, or you might need to schedule your day more effectively, or you might need to go out and talk to X amount of people, or you might need to make X amount of phone calls per day, X amount of sales calls per day. It's easy to say those things and it's easy for people to understand, but it's difficult for people to do. And the reason why it's difficult for people to do is because a lot of people lack self-accountability. They lack a true method of punishing themselves if they don't accomplish what they say they should accomplish. This is where a coach comes in. A coach will sit there and hold you accountable. A coach will say, did you do A, B, and C? And the thing about the coach is that it makes you feel guilty when you don't do it, because you have to admit to another human being that you did not accomplish your goals. There's something about that that just forces you into action. I had a personal coach years ago, and every other Friday we'd sit there and he'd say to me, did you do A, B, and C? And I think most of the time I did it, but I did it because there was so much fear of me admitting to him that I didn't do it, because you knew the next question would be, why? And you'd have to come up with some bullshit reason why you didn't do what you said you were gonna do. That was always super difficult, which is why I had a coach at the time. A coach to me is a fantastic way to hold yourself accountable. And then the final thing that a coach is great for, a coach can give you a proven system to take you from where you are to where you want to be. Like I mentioned earlier, it's better to have a system or a framework or a habit of sorts that allows you to make everything easier. And when you have that framework or that system in place, you don't have to worry about motivation. You don't have to worry about inspiration. You don't have to worry about discipline. You already have a proven framework that you can simply plug and play in order to get from where you are to where you want to be. Now, with that being said, if you need help organizing your day, trying to get from where you are now to where you want to be, to me, one of the things that holds people back the most is how they structure their day, and it's their overall productivity. If you need help with that, click the link below in the description. It'll take you to a page where you can schedule an hour-long session with me. It's 100% free. Together, we'll sit there, we'll talk about how to structure your day more effectively. I'll give you actual, objective strategies and plans that you can put into place that day that'll help you become more productive. You can do it by call or you can do it by text, whatever makes you feel most comfortable. But click the link below and you'll see a page. It'll take you there, it'll allow you to schedule, and you'll be able to sit with me one-on-one, either a video call or through a live text, and we can figure out together how to get you from point A to point B. Now, just to kind of recap everything, the first thing, motivation does not exist. There's no such thing as motivation. Motivation will not get you where you need to be. You need to ultimately have a sense of discipline, which is basically just you doing things when you might not want to do them. The second thing, you need to visualize the ideal future for yourself. The third thing, you need to visualize what could happen if you don't achieve your ideal future. You need to see one of the worst possible outcomes for yourself. The fourth thing, you need to get quick wins. You need to find a way to win fast, win often, and allow yourself to ride that momentum. The fifth thing, you need to change your identity. You need to be, in order to be a winner, you need to see yourself as a winner. The only way for you to become a winner is to start winning. Change your identity, change your life that way. Number 6, create a system to decrease activation energy. Don't try to make life difficult by forcing yourself to do the difficult things. Find a system that allows the difficult things to simply just be a part of your life. Allow it to be a habit that you don't have to think much about and that you do consistently, so you don't have to worry as much about motivation, inspiration, or discipline. And then the final thing, get yourself a coach. Find a coach or find a mentor or somebody that's further ahead than you are that can help you get from where you are now to where you'd like to be in the future, or at least a little bit closer. Hope that all made sense. If it did, click the link in the description to set up a call with me, like the video, and subscribe to the channel for more content like this. I hope to see you in the next one. Keep killing it.